I shall now take you to the enchanting world of Chit Chat with Manoj. This is a presentation of Mr. Manoj Singh, who is the founder and CEO of Caesar Productions. Let's see Mr. Singh's approach for this week.
Welcome to Chit Chat with Manoj. I'm Manoj Singh. Hello, Adab, Namaste. Today we are going to talk about a very important topic, challenges of adopting a child. And to have this discussion in my studio, I have Sapna and Sahar. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sapna is a director at Immigration Rights, a non-profit organization, and Sahar is a professor at St. Mary's College. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up and went to school, college, and what you do.
Sure. I was actually born here in DC, and my family lives in Maryland. I grew up in Maryland myself, in Rockville, and later on my parents moved to Potomac, so basically this whole area. My background is in public health, but in doing my public health work, basically I really realized that focusing on immigration issues is a big concern when it comes to improving the health of our communities here. And so basically about 10 years ago, I shifted to really focusing on immigration rights as one of the ways we can improve public health.
Very nice.
And I'm a professor of political science at St. Mary's College of Maryland. I love teaching, and that's really my focus. And so St. Mary's is a very teaching-intensive institution. We get a lot of students from Maryland, so that's really my passion.
That's very nice. I mean, given the present environment, political science is a very important discussion to have.
Yes.
When did you get married, and what did the friends and family, how did the whole acceptance process, if you want to talk about it? And in US and Western countries, we have come a long way. I mean, especially in US now, it's all Supreme Court decision during Obama's administration was a big change and very good change. So please, do you want to talk about it?
Sure. So Sahar and I actually met 13 years ago, and we considered ourselves married, actually. We were together for a while before the law got changed in DC. So DC was one of the first places in the United States that actually passed the law allowing same-sex couples to get married, and that was in 2010. So that was the first chance we actually had to get married legally. So that's when we did it. It was in August of 2010, and it was a beautiful ceremony. And some of my family flew in from India, and of course my family here. Some of Sahar's family came from Pakistan, so it was also the first time they're meeting, because otherwise it's so difficult to meet between India and Pakistan, so they had to come here in order to meet one another as well. And it was an amazing, we did the whole 3-day thing. We did the Sangeet and the Shadi and the Walima the next day and everything. So yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, and you asked about the acceptance. We're very blessed that we have both my family and Sapna's family who are very supportive, and we have a very beautiful community of friends, and at work for both of us, we're very accepted and supported. It's been a journey for both our families, and so they definitely were some difficult conversations along the way, but we're both very lucky to have their support.
Very nice. And wish you all the best, and I believe in it. And we have a very short life, and everyone should be wants to be happy. And child adoption, as we all know, is a very noble cause, and it's very popular in Western countries, even in India. But laws vary, and in fact, in some of the European countries, they provide very good benefits. Both parents get paid time off for a year, especially in Sweden, Norway, and even a maid is paid for. Here in the US, all the corporations actually have very good benefits for adoption. They help you financially. They also give you time off, and it's a good thing to do. I mean, some of the very famous people like Steve Jobs, Bill Clinton, Marilyn Monroe were adopted. And one of the very famous couple in Bollywood, Angela Jolie and Brad Pitt, have a international adoption. Actually, they've adopted from so many countries, and God bless them. Sapna and Sahar, tell us in short about the process of child adoption here in US and compared to India or around the world, and how long is the process?
So the second question is harder to answer, but I can say that the first question, it's very different in the United States versus India, Pakistan and other countries, because in the United States we don't have orphanages, right? In India and Pakistan and many other countries in the world, typically the main way that people adopt children is via orphanages. In the United States, I think it was after World War II that we stopped having orphanages here. So the process in the United States is basically that we, as an adoptive couple, adoptive family, need to get matched with somebody who is either pregnant or may have had a child and is not able to raise that child. So essentially, oftentimes these are people in very difficult financial situation, or they've had a child in out of wedlock, they weren't married, or in a relationship that the parents are not accepting, and so then this person finds themselves pregnant, and if she decides to carry and keep the child, then basically the way it works in the United States is finding a home for that baby, finding a home for that child that would love and be able to support and raise that child in a way that maybe the biological parents are not able to for a number of reasons. And so that's how it works in the United States. Do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think responding to your question about India and Pakistan, I think that those laws have become much more strict in terms of being able to adopt from those countries. And for us, as a same-sex couple, unfortunately, that's not an option for us.
Yeah, that was my next question, how challenging it is. You did mention that in India and Pakistan, of course, it's illegal. But what about the Western countries, or even South Asian countries like Vietnam and Philippines? And have you thought about it from other countries, if not Indian?
Yeah, we definitely thought about it, and we did a lot of research. We did a lot of research, and unfortunately, it's just not possible because those countries, including India and Pakistan, actually have become much more restrictive, even for opposite sex couples. So it just has become really, really difficult. And then you add on the additional obstacle for us, which is, as a same-sex couple, that becomes really difficult, whatever country you're talking about.
I mean, you go on the India Child Ministry website, which is the ministry that does adoption, and they have a very big thing on it that says gays and lesbians cannot adopt. There's a full sort of ban. And again, it's not unique. Most countries are like that as well. In the US, there's no restriction now. There used to be in certain places, but now overall in the United States, same-sex couples can adopt in any state. So there's no restriction in the United States.
Okay, that's nice. So it is one thing to adopt, but it's a lifelong process and responsibility. The bonding, the care up, and of course there are even in US, I think social workers come and at least for a few years they come and do a checkup. It's more critical, I think, the long-term aspect of it. Have you talked about it, both of you?
Yes, a lot. And like you said, that whole process, right? So we are now licensed and fully approved to be able to adopt. And in order to have this status, we had to go through a lengthy process with the social services agencies. So not only have we talked about it and discussed it in great length, but the social worker has to come home, talk to me separately, talk to Sahar separately, and then talk to both of us as a couple and asks very detailed questions about all this. How will you raise them? What are your philosophies on discipline? What do you believe about school? How involved will your families be? This and that. So we had a very thorough examination basically of all those things. We had the fire department come and check out our house. We've been checked in FBI registries and everything. I mean, we've gone through a lot of checks to make sure that we're ready. And also kind of going back, this idea of adopting is something I always wanted to do personally, even before I met Sahar. When I was a teenager, I remember saying to my parents that I want to adopt. That was always how I wanted to start my family, was through adoption. And when Sahar and I met, we realized that that was true for her as well. She also wanted to start her family through adoption. So it was actually something we had also already explored individually, and then to talk about it together and to say, how would we do this? It made it a lot easier because we both want to do this.
It's a very noble cause. I respect you for doing that. I mean, giving another human being a life is what better can you do? I mean, I've done only on the side note. We bring most of our animals are from the shelter, and they also the process is not that stringent, but they do come to your home and do interview and all that.
Right.
So why you? That's the biggest question. How will you be a good parent? What values will guide you through this whole journey of bringing up a child, and hopefully one day a good human being? That's in the end of the day, that's all that matters.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
I think we have so many answers to that question, so we'll try to be brief. I think for me, I'm going to go back to my family and Sapna's family. We are just so lucky that we have had such loving families and parents, and they have given us such excellent values that I'm really guided by that in thinking about creating a home for our child, and just really putting that child front and center and his or her needs. That's really, really important. I think that we have a lot of love to give, and we really want to be able to support somebody in that way.
Yeah, and I think through our work as well, like Sahar, as a professor, is molding young people every day, how they think, how they see the world, how they make sense of the world. And similarly, my work, in my immigrant rights work, I work with immigrant high school students, and I meet them generally very soon after they've just come to the United States. They're fresh here, they don't speak English, they don't know the system, and I really get to see them grow from the time that they're in 9th grade till the time they graduate high school. I've seen them grow up in front of my eyes, and that, I mean, honestly, for both of us, that was actually also part of the motivation of us wanting to adopt and raise a good human being, as you said, because we've seen it happen and we've done it in our day-to-day work. And so obviously we want to do that with our child as well, to give them a way to look at the world, a way to see people as good as well, and a way to give something good back to the world. That is what I do in my work, what she does in her work, and so obviously we would do this in our personal lives as well.
That's very nice, very nice. Where there are many movies on adoption. This has been around for a while. Millions of kids are waiting actually in orphanages, poverty and war-stricken areas, were waiting to be adopted. What better deed, like we just talked about, taking care of another human being. So one of the key aspect in adoption is also identity, whether it be same-sex couple or even otherwise. A lot of times, like for example, I had intercaste marriage or whatever. How do you plan in dealing with it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that is also something we've talked a lot about. I mean, obviously we also have a mixed, cultures coming together, and we, for our wedding as well, as you mentioned, we had Hindu elements and Muslim elements coming into our wedding. We celebrate Diwali and Eid. We basically have found a way to really merge all the different parts of ourselves in our home. And similarly, we really are very interested in passing that on to our child. As Sahar said, the things that you get from your parents, like my parents, I think it's a struggle in this country to hold on to your culture, your language, all those things. And my parents did an amazing job with that. I, for example, learned dance from a very young age, and to this day am extremely close to the dance and music world. I would want to pass that on to my child as well, is an appreciation for the fine arts. I can speak my father's native tongue, Gujarati. I can understand mostly, not fully speak properly my mother's native tongue, which is Marathi, and I can speak Hindi, Urdu quite fluently. And these are all things I credit to my parents in passing that on to me. So again, that, like Sahar said, we've gotten these things from our parents in spades, and we would want to pass that on to our child also. The language, the culture, the identity in this country as a child of immigrants and so coming from another place, another country in the United States is extremely important to us, and we would want to make sure that we're nurturing that with our child as well.
Very nice. I mean, I'm very transparent to it because I have my best friends were Parsi, Christians, Hindus, Muslims in India growing up, and I was brought up in a Catholic school. So and that doesn't
I
mean
went to Catholic school.
that I become Christian or anything. I read Bible. We used to hymns and all that, and you know, embraced all of them. You know, and I would look forward to Eid and go to a friend's house, and I used to call him Ammi, and have good biryani and all that. Enjoy, you know.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
so what are the legal issues, especially for LGBTQ parents?
Do you want to cover that?
I mean, I think that
I think you touched upon it,
Yeah,
but a
a
bit
little
more
bit.
detail.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're again lucky, as you mentioned, that with especially some of the progress that was made under the Obama administration, that many of those legal barriers have fallen. The main one for us is that it remains difficult for us to, or actually impossible for us to adopt from overseas. I think there are some concerns about traveling with our adoptive child in the future. In terms of which countries would recognize our relationship and the child's relationship to us, and which ones would not. That
Never
remains
thought
a concern.
about it.
Yeah, that's a concern also for me because you know, most of my family is in Pakistan, and so I definitely want to maintain that connection between, say, my parents and their grandchild, and of course they want to maintain that as well. So. So that is something that we have to think about very carefully.
Traveling is very important for us. We both go back to India, Pakistan every year as much as we can, you know, and that was something that crossed our minds, is even on the visa application form, because if our child is born in the United States, then they would need to apply to via visa to India or Pakistan, and you have to put father's name and mother's name on the visa application form. So just even those kinds of legal challenges where it's there is no father, you know, there is no name to put on that line. And we have other friends that have faced difficulty with that in trying to take their children back to India, Pakistan.
Did they finally get a visa?
They did, through pulling strings and the way that it's always done, and that shouldn't be it. You know, it should be a process that's open to everyone, not just because you have some connection or, you know, something like that. So it is something that needs to be looked at, and actually not just for LGBTQ parents, but for example, single parents as well. You know, for women who may be divorced or who are single, and vice versa for men who are divorced or single, it becomes very difficult when they're so stringent on these travel rules as well. So.
Yeah, that's not something new I learned today. You know, I mean, you didn't think about these things, you know, and any challenges, concerns lately because of the government we have now in place? I know he has already said that he's not going to touch that particular topic. The Supreme Court has already made a decision.
I think that as South Asian LGBT people, our community is not just having to worry about LGBTQ rights, but also our rights as people of color, as South Asians, as women. So there's actually lots of different ways in which, as Muslims, lots of different ways in which we're getting attacked. So I think there is a concern under the current climate of you know, rights being taken away, whether it is for us as LGBT people or it is on some other basis, because it will still affect our lives.
We'll have a more detailed discussion on that. It's
But
a very
also
interesting
on
topic and it needs to be covered.
And on the identity piece as well, I think, you know, I know a lot of our community is concerned and afraid. I mean, there have been attacks on Sikhs, Muslims and Hindus in this country, right? And people who appear to be any of those things as well. So that's a concern for us. If we're raising a child in this country, we want them to feel as though this country belongs to them, the same way that I would, or the same way that she would, you know, being either born here or immigrated here. One should feel the ability to claim this country as their home and as their rightful place. So we want our child to feel that as well. So that is a concern.
I agree with you, and you have my full support.
Thank you.
Here's the camera, and your whatever message you want to give to the DC Metro audience, and you can talk about your flyer as well.
Yeah, sure. So this is the flyer that we have, that we've created, and it actually tells a little bit of a story about who are Sapna and Sahar, and there's pictures of our nieces that we're very close to our close friends' children as well, that we have a large part to play in helping to raise the little ones in our community as well, and we love that. And so basically the reason we put this together, and we also have a Facebook page. On Facebook it is Sapna and Sahar Adopt on Facebook. The reason why we're doing this is because in case anybody is watching that either is pregnant and unintentionally so, as in you didn't plan to become pregnant, or if you know somebody who is pregnant and maybe didn't plan to be so and is planning to carry the child through, then we would be very happy to talk to you about the possibility of adopting that child and raising that child. And we can do this as openly or as discreetly as one wants. If it has to be discreet, we have an attorney that we've been working with, and that can just be a paperwork transaction and that's it. If it's more open that you want, then that's also something we can talk about, and we're very open to that. We don't want the situation we see in Bollywood movies where, you know, the child doesn't know that who are their biological parents and who are their adoptive parents and this and that. We don't want that scene. We want there to be an open relationship if that's something that you choose. So we are online. Our phone number is also here, 1-800-658-7574, and it's a toll-free number that you can call, and we can talk about that situation as well. Sahar, if you want to say anything.
I also just want to add that we want to be of help to somebody who may be in trouble, and so it's not just about your child, but it's also about helping you live a life that is the one that you were meant to live.
Yeah. Exactly.
Thank you. One last question.
Yeah.
Do you have? Is there any kind of help available where people can call? Any organizations? Anything you want to say in the end?
For the
LGBTQ members for adoption and any counseling they want.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
I mean, I think one plug I will make is for, well, actually, I'll make two plugs. One is for Hush DC, which is an LGBTQ organization specifically for South Asians in the DC metro area. The other plug that I will make is for a group called Masjid, which is the Muslim Alliance for Sexual and Gender Diversity, which is for Muslim LGBTQ people specifically.
Yeah. As far as LGBTQ parents or people looking for adoption, that has been more difficult to find, although there is a group here in the DC area called Rainbow Families, and it's a support group, and so basically it's for same-sex couples who are hoping to adopt, and it's called Rainbow Families, and it meets monthly, and basically it's a place for us to actually share resources and information with one another. So when we started our journey, we went to them and we said, look, we want to adopt. We tried from India, Pakistan, it's not going to work, so how do we do it domestically? And the folks in the group really guided us, and so we would love to also help and guide other people, whether they're a same-sex couple or opposite-sex couple. We would be happy to guide others in what this process looks like, how do you get started, what are the resources out there, attorneys, agencies, this and that. We've been in this journey for about 2.5 years now, and so we've learned a lot along the way, and we're
experts.
and we're happy to share that with others as well.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to end this with two quotes. There are no unwanted children, just unfound families. This is the National Adoption Center. If there is a cause worth fighting for, it's this. Children belong to a family. Nicole Scavenger. Thank you very much. Like I always say in the end, life is short, have fun, and have no regrets.